Sea of Thieves is one of those games that blew me away at launch and had my friends and I laughing our asses off as we got smashed on grog and played music while sailing the high seas. But once the initial hit of dopamine wore off, Sea of Thieves started to feel like the sea of emptiness. There wasn't much to do, and searching for treasure over and over again got quite boring. Luckily for us, that has all changed now. So without further ado, let's get to the 4 years after launch review of Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves launched in March of 2018 to mediocre reviews with headlines like "Short-lived hilarity on the high seas" and "Life as a pirate starts strong and then you enter the doldrums." But if you played the game at launch, you could most likely see the foundation was in place for a possibly amazing experience. Some people toughed it out, others like me said, "I'll just come back when it gets some updates." And up until recently, Sea of Thieves was an afterthought. The thing that brought me back was I kept seeing Sea of Thieves had been holding its place for quite some time on the top sellers list on Steam with 185,000 reviews. So I figured they must have added enough to keep people invested in the game. So I headed to Game Pass, downloaded it onto my Series X, found a friend, thank you to Dylan for being the Will Turner to my Jack Sparrow, and then hit the high seas. The first thing we did was start with a newish campaign called A Pirate's Life, which was added in June of 2021 in partnership with Disney to create a Pirates of the Caribbean themed story. So if you're familiar with the old Disney ride Pirates of the Caribbean or the movies, you'll absolutely love this experience. The campaign is broken down into 5 missions which you can find on any outpost island. And these 5 missions are all pretty much great experiences. From fighting Davy Jones to figuring out puzzles, these 5 missions have a little bit of everything, and the attention to detail is second to none. The caves, the sculptures, the story, the reveal of the sunken Black Pearl is incredible. The Goonies-inspired slides into the cave with the ship, which also has an organ, it's just so much nostalgia. They even have an island town that replicates the town you float through on the actual Disney ride, all the way down to the dog with the jail keys in his mouth and the pirates in the jail trying to get the dog to bring the keys over to them. That kind of immersion is really special and has me super excited for their next story adventure. So now that I've praised A Pirate's Life, I'm going to rip A Pirate's Life for a minute. We got stuck on the Sunken Pearl mission so many times, I almost lost my fucking marbles. The Siren Gem we needed to continue would not show up when it was supposed to, and from my research, it's been a known issue, and since it was released in June of 2021, and I'm writing this in May of 2022, you'd think they would have fixed this bug by now. It's game breaking depending on how badly you want to finish the campaign, and we sunk probably 2 sessions and about 4 or 5 hours into getting past this bug. Eventually we did, by luck or by pure determination, we prevailed to move on, and even though we were pretty annoyed and the story was so good we never really wanted to quit, and that's maybe a testament to how good this added content truly is. Let's talk about the immersion for a minute. I'm going to assume you're like me and played Sea of Thieves when it first came out, so you're aware of how beautiful this game is. But for those of you who've never played Sea of Thieves and are wondering how it looks, feels, and plays, this game is truly amazing. The sailing is everything you'd ever want it to be. The water is extremely lifelike, both above and below the surface. The way this ship reacts to the waves is absolutely incredible. The atmosphere and the weather is constantly changing. Sometimes it's beautiful with turquoise waters and lots of sunlight. Other times it can be overcast and windy with more muddied waters. Also, the atmosphere can change from one area to the next. The storms are beautiful. The nights are even more beautiful. With all the stars out in the northern lights, visually you can't ask for much more from a game. In 4K on the Series X, Sea of Thieves looks downright gorgeous, both in its artistic style and graphical fidelity. The gameplay is also great. They've added in lots of special cannonballs to shoot other pirate ships with, cannons that will set ships on fire, force their anchors to drop, some force your opponents to dance, and the variety is amazing, and it adds to the aspect of silliness to the game that makes combat that much more fun. You can climb in the cannon and shoot yourself to other ships and try and sneak on board and try and firebomb them or pull their anchor. There's so many different fun ways to PvP in Sea of Thieves, and although we got dominated every single time we fought another crew, it was still fun. Also, the treasure chests are really creative. Some make you drunk and others cry and flood your ship. I hope that they continue to add new and interesting treasure chests because it's really a cool part of the game. Another thing I noticed is they've added more ways to make money, like the ghost-infested sea fortress, which is a really fun little way of getting treasure, or by sinking skeleton pirate ships which drop loot when you sink them. It used to be really hard to collect money, especially if you play solo. Thankfully, they've addressed that, and it seems to me that gaining money is much easier now. So let's talk about what's been added to Sea of Thieves over the years. To this day, there have been 35 content updates. The first big one was Forsaken Shores, which added an entire new area called the Devil's Roar. It's a volcano-themed area, and the difficulty is definitely a bit higher in this area, as volcanoes can easily sink your ship. This is Editor Eli popping in here. Listen, for the rest of the new updates, you'll have to look into it yourself, because like I said, there have been 35 updates, and I'm not about to go through every single one of them. I'm more or less here to tell you that this game has had tons of content added to it, and more is on the way. Gone are the days of non-stop treasure hunts and merchant pickups, empty seas and not a whole lot to do. There's lots to do now, and the game is deeper than ever. But one thing is for sure, I think they really hit on something with the Tall Tales, which are story-driven missions. I hope that they continue to add more stories and campaigns, because A Pirate's Life, although at times was a fucking glitchy mess, was some of the most fun I've had with an Xbox game in a long time, and it's even more fun if you play with a group of friends. So here we are, 4 years after the launch of Sea of Thieves, and those of us who tried it at launch but were underwhelmed knew there was something special below the surface, and now there's amazing story-driven campaigns, ghost islands, and skeleton ships to sink. And the thing is, I really didn't even scratch the surface of everything that's been added to Sea of Thieves. There's tons of new content to discover, and I hope I was able to get that point across to you. If you haven't ever played Sea of Thieves, I don't know what the fuck you're waiting for. If you are like me and you've been looking for a reason to get back into it, now is the right time to dive back in. Please like and subscribe, guys. It really helps me out, and thanks for watching. This has been Eli with Rage Review. Take care, scoundrels.